If you send someone to a landing page and they leave with questions in their head, you haven't done a good enough job on your landing page. So you need to answer everyone's questions, make sure they know you're a real brand who trusts and cares in your product and your consumer, and it will go a long way.
Welcome to No Hacks Show, a weekly podcast where smart people talk to you about better online experiences. My guest today is Oliver Kenyon, co-founder of ConversionWise. Oliver is here to tell you all you need to know about conversion design and running and growing a CRO agency. Oliver, welcome to No Hacks Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Sonny. I'm excited. Good.
Great to have you. Great to talk to you. So let's talk about landing page design first, because that is really what your bread and butter was for a lot of time before ConversionWise was ConversionWise. It was landing page guys for how many years?
Roughly about 8-9 years we had landing page guys. We had this very clear goal of like becoming the go-to people for landing pages. So how do you do that? Well, you call yourself the landing page guys.
That's step one.
Yeah.
There's a lot more work that you did in the 8 or 9 years, but that's a good step. I mean, that was like 10 years ago when you started?
So the company's now 12 years old.
Yeah,
so about
12 years ago. That was...
Yeah. For about a month, we were called createmy.com. And I thought it was very clever. I paid with my first ever, back then, big acquisition as far as a domain name. I think I paid £700 for it on Cedo. I remember I was on holiday with my family and I ran in. I told my dad I paid £700 for a domain and he was like, "What's a domain? Why have you done this?" But yeah, that didn't last. Then we just niched 100% down into landing pages and CRO, and yeah, that's it.
Which obviously was a good decision, looking back from now.
Yeah, I think especially with web design, because there's so many competing people with web that back then landing pages weren't overly known. You had Russell Brunson, who was kind of pushing funnels with click funnels, but landing pages were the kind of new thing, and we kind of helped shape that kind of space really.
A very cool story. So let's talk about landing page, importance of landing page in CRO, and I think you have to tie landing pages to paid traffic acquisition, like ads and whatnot, because if you're just sending that ad traffic to a random page on your website, you're not really using the full potential of what you could get out of that traffic. So why are the landing pages so important for conversion rate optimization?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So 99% of our clients over the last 12 years have been doing paid media, paid acquisition, Facebook ads, whatever that may be, Google search, etc. And landing pages, again, anything's a landing page. Effectively, where someone lands from an ad is a landing page. That could be a home page, it could be a product page. But typically speaking, we are talking more about kind of aggressive sales pages. They're built for a reason. And the reason landing pages are so effective, and the words I always come back to are direct response. They are D2C's bread and butter. If you want someone to click an ad and be fully focused on that product that you're selling or that you're pre-selling, whether it's a pre-sale, an advertorial, or it's a sales page, landing pages are the best way to do it, because a landing page versus a store, for example, there are zero distractions. There might be navigational links, but even if you click them, they scroll to different sections within that page. You're not going anywhere else. You're not seeing any social links. You're not clicking off to Facebook. They are very aggressive from a marketing perspective on how they sell or pre-sell your product. So it's just a really effective way for when you're buying a click, when you're actually paying for a click, getting a return on that ad spend, because you can actually funnel people down into a page or a journey on that page, or a story if it's more contextual, to sell your product, your service, essentially.
One really important thing you said there is zero distractions. And I think that is the main difference between a Shopify product page, let's say, and that has the menu, that has the footer, that has search function, whatnot. This is a distraction-free zone where you're talking about the thing you want them to sell. So that's number one. That's I think that's the most important thing about landing pages, like zero distraction or low distraction. What are some of the mistakes that people make when they're designing these landing pages? And when we say landing page, like you say, this is not a platform-provided template. This is something that you need to create with an ad campaign in mind, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So what are some of the mistakes?
So some of the mistakes are thinking that landing pages are one size fits all. I think if you're a big brand, you have to think about where in the buyer journey is your consumer. Are they top of funnel, middle of funnel? Are they product aware? Are they aware of your brand? So thinking that you can just throw kind of one variation of a sales page out and it kind of fits all people from all audiences, all attribution channels is kind of a mistake. Also using the wrong type of landing page. So, for a product that needs typically, explanation and actually needs some free educating of selling the product. Things like I said, advertorials, listicles, where you can actually have context and explain, maybe tell a story, touch on pain points, and then focus on that you are the solution for those pain points, work very, very well. But again, I think it's just things, it's not necessarily mistakes being made by what's on the page. It's often what's not on the page. Are you ticking the boxes of things like social proof? Do you have trust and credibility? Is your offer strong enough? Do you get your value proposition across quick enough when people land on that page? Things, I think distraction is one thing, but having distractions in the form of call to actions. Do you have one very direct message that you're trying to get people to do? And I always say this when it comes to a landing page. Ultimately, you need to treat people as if they're 5 years old. Speak to them in very simple languages and tell them exactly what's going to happen next. So if you have multiple CTAs, call to actions, above the fold throughout your page, and they're all different. If you have a click to call button and then a learn more button and a add to cart button and a get started now button, you're just confusing your consumers. So I think not getting dialed into actually what that next step is a real big mistake we see. And there's loads of kind of mistakes from a UX UI perspective. Things like busy background with white text, fonts being too small, not making your text scannable is a huge one. So just having these big paragraphs of boring text that isn't scannable, isn't easy to read in small fonts. It is crucial, and it goes beyond the landing page. What happens when they click? Where are you taking them? Are you confusing the buyer journey by putting too many steps in place? Are you asking your cold consumers to do too much? So there's lots of things, but it's more not it's not really what's on that page. It's what's not on that page from a user psychology and a kind of a conversion perspective, conversion design.
That's really well explained. But like you said, it's about what happens after. Also, what happens before they get to the landing page. Because when you're designing a landing page, when you're trying to create a landing page, you have to think about the ad, right? Or even better, design the ad in tandem with the landing page. Like that's the best case scenario. Because if there's a mismatch between the ad and what no. That's just not the way it should be.
Completely right.
So ConversionWise does Shopify. Like that's your only platform you work with, or the main platform?
The main, I would say 90% of our clients are on Shopify. Right. But we also work with WooCommerce, BigCommerce, custom setups. We have some clients on custom setups as well. Right. But yeah, I think majority of people these days are on Shopify Plus we tend to work with because of the size of the client. But yeah.
So when you talk about landing page design for Shopify, you have to talk about apps, right? Because they save time. Most merchants will be using apps.
There's a lot of apps make things easy, as you said. They save time. So if you're going to be doing this yourself, then yes, definitely look into a couple of apps to build pages on Shopify. I mean, we obviously do CRO across the whole store, not just pages. We just have that into our service, and of course, we've done that for 8-9 years. But yeah, if you want to do this your kind of self, then apps are kind of an easy way to do this. Replo is one that you can use. Instant are doing some great things. You just want to look into kind of speed of execution, good template, I guess easeability if you're not a developer, that you'll never ever be able to beat a custom setup. So as far as kind of load speed, etc., it is crucial if you're doing high volume to kind of go that route. But yeah, there's definitely, like you say, some apps that can help you.
So some of the downsides of using apps or some of the things that people should be aware of and careful about is it will slow down your page.
I think they're becoming way better. I think Replo and Instant are putting in a lot of R&D into kind of making things a lot quicker. But flexibility is a huge one. Actually having the flexibility to do everything that you want. We share a lot. I'm quite active on socials, and we're always sharing case studies and CRO experimentations that we've run and winning tests, etc., and more to give people the ideas, because I'm the first to admit that there is no best practice. Yes, there are. Actually, I think there are best frameworks when it comes to things like landing page layouts, etc. I think if you're starting from scratch, there are definitely best practices and frameworks. But when you get to a certain volume, your brand is so unique that you can't compare yourself to your competitors. So, we put out a lot of these kind of winning results and stuff and tests that we kind of have. But sometimes the most common question is, how do I do it? What app do I need to do this? And unfortunately, my answer is 9 times out of 10, we custom build this.
That's a very interesting debate in CRO community. Like, should you follow best practices or should you just do? Yeah,
I think anyone who says that best practices don't exist is not.
They do.
I don't think that's true. After the years and years of actually being in the trenches, building stores, landing pages, we've worked with over 3,500 plus brands. I think it's a fact that we've designed more landing pages than any agency on this planet, and we've been doing it for 12 years. And there is 100% best practices when it comes to layout, when it comes to what should be on your page from a conversion designs perspective. We teach this all inside our academy. We have wireframes that show you exactly how your pages should be laid out. So I think if you're coming into this as an unknown, or you're listening to this and thinking, I want to have a go at one of these landing pages, but I don't want to pay Oliver's company, that's absolutely fine. There are best practices that you can follow that will get you to a certain point. I think it's when you do volume and you have data is where the two marry. So we can have best practices on the front end from a designs perspective, but when you look into the back end of the data, and you analyze your attribution channels, you analyze your kind of GA form, where people are visiting, where they're clicking, where they're dropping off, where you use heat map software like heatmap.com that tracks clicks and revenues, scroll map data. There's nothing better that you can do than obviously doing post-purchase surveying your customers. Now, when you take all of that data and then you marry it with the conversion design principle, that's when you can get huge winning tests, because you're following conversion design principles, but you also have the data to marry it with, and that's the best.
Absolutely. My take on best practices and whether they should be followed. Yeah, you can follow them, but you need to be aware of the fact that there's someone else's best practices. They may work for you, or they may not work for you. Your job is to learn if that works for you or not. If you just take that step, you'll do better than most.
There you go. I think that's the key thing, that you'll do better than most. You will be off to a good start, and that's what we say. Best practices will get you off to a good start.
Exactly.
But then you need to look into things like data and running ongoing tests.
100%. So the main topic today is conversion design. Like the title of the episode is Mastering Conversion Design.
Sure.
Before we can start talking about conversion design, what is the non-conversion, quote-unquote, design?
So I think conversion design versus, standard design is design, as I mentioned at the beginning of the pod, is, there are probably, even in my local area, 1,000 web design agencies that can make a website that works. It will sell, it will look great, it will, aesthetically be a very nice looking website. Where the difference is in conversion design is you have all these conversion principles baked into the design. So yes, it looks nice, but it follows these kind of best practices when it comes to actually turning a click into a customer. Whereas, a very nice, attractive website may look good to you and I visually, but, I'm looking at 300 websites a day and thinking this is what they can do to improve their conversion rate. And it's all of these individual principles, and, we can go through some of the most important ones, etc. That's fine. But it's having all of these baked into that nice design that's actually going to, attract you more customers and get you more purchases.
Absolutely. And we'll go through some of the principles, but one question first. Why do all those high fashion websites, like really, really high fashion websites, why do they all, they look kind of nice, but if you ever done any CRO or any UX, they're horrible. Is there a reason for that, or do they just have no idea?
Because typically owners of apparel brands and fashion websites are designers. That's why, and they follow, but they also think they follow kind of their best practices as far as they might look at a Vivienne Westwood or Yves Saint Laurent or a brand that's already well established and known. These guys don't need, we have that question a lot as well. It's like, well, Adidas doesn't do this. And it's like, because they're Adidas. These guys don't need to pre-sell you. They don't need trust and credibility. Everyone in this world trusts Adidas as a company. they're buying from them. We know we can get returns from Adidas. We know they're not going to fraud us or take our money. We know they're going to deliver very quickly. But the consumer doesn't know that about your brand. So just having that misconception is where a big downfall in CRO. And I think, yes, consumers are used to purchasing apparel and fashion from this kind of site. But this is an argument, this is a thing we go through on a day-to-day basis with our kind of fashion and apparel brands that we work with, is like having that whole brand versus CRO. And you can marry the two. And I think that's an important thing, especially with those type of websites, to find a middle ground where, you know, we're not going overboard on having all these conversion design elements, maybe doing it in more of an aesthetic way, an aesthetic feel. But I guarantee you, if you start doing it, you're going to get better results. And we see this time and time again with fashion brands that we work with. But as soon as you said it, my head went to the same place as you. It's
I'm 100% with
brand.
you on that. And especially high fashion. Like, smaller fashion brands, sure. But if you look at, like I said, Vivienne Westwood or like any very expensive fashion brand, basically, who built this site for you? Who designed it? Because they don't know what a website should look like or work like. I mean, even like something like Zara, like if you look at their homepage, it's awful. It never works.
The experience from buying from Zara is awful.
And they're huge. Like, how is that possible?
Because they're established. They're category kings within their brand. And I just think, you know, regardless, you're going to buy. You know, I buy from Zara, and you're going to buy because you trust them, good products, good price point.
That's a good point.
But they've gone through that pain point, probably in retail, not necessarily online, to establish that trust and credibility. Whereas you, as a brand owner who is just targeting cold media online, haven't had that relationship with the customer. They don't have a clue who you are. So you do need to instill these conversion design principles to attract more customers.
Yep. Very well explained. So let's talk about some of the key principles. Let's talk about 2 or 3 key principles that are the first that come to mind.
I think that for me, there's sort of 4 or 5 of the kind of most important. I think there's probably more, and I can reel some off, but I think trust and credibility is huge. I think that whole thing of clicking a cold ad to then making someone actually understand that you're a real brand that they can trust in. We do simple things like we call it a trust policy bar, which is just it's like a notice bar that sits below the navigation, that has 4 or 5 icons with some nice statements, things like that. I always challenge customers to have a think about your brand and how can you make your specific audience understand that you're a real brand who cares. So, you know, it's not necessarily all the same thing. Typically, it's things like having a satisfaction guarantee, how many happy customers you've had, things like, are you vegan friendly if you're selling food? Are you made in the US if you're selling to US? It's all these things that gives you a little bit of authority, and people then think, you know, these are real brand. Social proof is huge. I don't think you can ever overdo social proof. So looking at your site above the fold and making sure you have some form of social proof, whether that's a physical testimonial or it's just, you know, your star rating, but taking it one step further, not just having 4.8 out of 5 stars, you know, numbers convert, mentioning how many happy customers you've had, how many years you've been in business. I think objection handling is massive and not done enough. So even from things like an FAQ section, having that on your page, you know, how long did it take to ship? Do you have a return policy? You know, all the common questions, but then also going into brand specific questions about your brand or your product if you're a single SKU versus multi. Another great one with handling objections is if you don't have post-purchase surveys set up, set them up. Ask, importantly, 2 questions. One is, why did you purchase today? One is, why did you almost not purchase today? Now, that one that is, why did you almost not purchase today? Have a look at commonalities between the responses. And if a lot of people are saying one thing, the best thing you can do is actually get a testimonial that answers that objection and putting it on your product page or homepage. So, for example, we have a client who sells high-end sandals for your feet, and everyone on the post-purchase survey said, why did you almost not buy today? And the question was around quality. So it was around, we didn't realize the quality of the leather used. So we handled that objection, by adding a new section on the homepage that went into the fact that they're handmade using the best leather, etc. But really importantly, above the fold and on the cart slider, we had a testimonial that said, I was so impressed with the quality of these shoes, because You're just removing that friction and that objection in someone's head before they even have it. So I think that's huge. And I think, you can't shy away from usability and kind of just making sure your site is, especially on mobile first, very cliche to say, but making sure that you can easily add to cart, making sure that journey before the kind of checkout isn't intrusive, it isn't too hard to go through, making sure buttons are all aligned on mobile, they're all consistent with their terminology, pointing chevron, directional clue, colors of buttons, things like font sizes. You need big enough font sizes, making sure that text is scannable and not big blocks of text. So yeah, there's way more, but I think to me that's the best place to start is those ones for sure.
That's very good. And like you said, when they land and you're a small brand, they don't know who you are, you need to approach the landing page and the entire website as if the user has every reason not to trust you.
Right.
And it's your job to convince them, like you said, to pre-address.
I always say is like, if you send someone to a landing page and they leave with questions in their head, you haven't done a good enough job on your landing page. So you need to, like you say, answer everyone's questions, make sure they know you're a real brand who trusts and cares in your product and your consumer, and it'll go a long way.
And explain like they're 5. Just to quote what you said earlier.
Hold their hand, walk them through the whole journey.
100%, because you can bet that majority of your users will not understand your copy. Agreed. Unless it's really, well, dumbed down is a wrong way to put it, but it's like if it's explained like they're 5, then there will not be any confusion. Let's talk about your agency. Like you, sure. 12 years of running and growing, and like there was a big milestone recently that we'll talk about as well with your agency. So what are some of the biggest challenges over the 12-year period that you faced with Landing Page Guys and then ConversionWise?
Yeah, thank you. I think big challenges, a lot comes recently with scale. So we've scaled a lot. We have a mutual friend or two who works for ConversionWise, and we brought on a lot of amazing team members very, very quickly. But we've been in a very fortunate position with hiring, because I've always I don't know if the listeners have ever heard of a guy called Daniel Priestley. He's an amazing entrepreneur. I think he's Australian, South African potentially. He lives in the UK. And he wrote a book called Key Person of Influence, KPI. And I read that book about 12 years ago, and I became obsessed with becoming the go-to person in the space with landing pages. So we just put out so much free content. And we were lucky that I'm still relentless at that to this day. Every day I'm posting out free content. And we've built
By the way, your LinkedIn profile will be in the description, and just follow Oliver. This is not all talk. Just follow him. You'll get all the posts that he's talking about.
Thank you very much.
Daily or a few times a day?
Yeah, daily. Yeah, exactly. The blessing of that is that we built up somewhat of a following. Very small. I don't have thousands. It's not a huge following, but we built up a following that when we are hiring, we're really lucky. If I put out, we're now hiring a CRO specialist. We get, 10, 20 applicants every time. But that's very hard to hire and keep the company culture when we're remote. I think has been a bit of a challenge. We do something which we love, which is called Positive Focus every morning. I don't know if Luca told you about this, but basically every single morning at 9:30, there's an open call in our calendar who anyone on the team can join.
Oh, cool.
And you just go around the meet saying why you're positive for the day. It sounds really cheesy, sounds a bit hippie-ish, but it's actually really good. It could just be that like you had the best dinner ever last night and you watched an amazing program, or it could be that you smashed the conversion rates of your clients. It doesn't matter, but it has helped with that culture. So I think we've now got 50 plus staff, and having them all remote is a challenge because you really need to pull in that culture. So things like that help. And look, 12 years is a long time. I'm not saying it's all been, we're in an amazing part of our journey right now. Really good. Probably the best it's ever been. But if you'd called me 2 years ago, I would have said the complete opposite. So, we have our downtimes, we have ups and downs. We're always competing with landing page builders and AI and technology advances. But hey, that's just part and parcel of running an agency for sure.
Oh, of course. And let's talk about the opposite end of that. What are some of the key factors that contributed to the agency growth and ConversionWise reaching the stage where it's at right now?
Yeah, I think relentless is the word that always comes up in my head. I am, for sickness or health, someone who is obsessive. So if I set myself a task, I only joined Twitter probably a year and a half ago, but I set myself up a spreadsheet and I was accountable to my co-founder Andy that I was going to post every single day. And I did consistently for over a year, and we grew 20,000 followers and grew some great leads in business. And I think relentless is a real key word when it comes to anything business orientated. I think the only reason you don't do something is if you quit, right? So just be relentless in whatever you're doing. My part of the business is very much sales, marketing, innovation. Andy's my co-founder. I'm very lucky. He's the opposite. So he's very much people, processes, etc. So I think that's a huge one. Just being consistent
and relentless, like you said, and it goes way beyond business. Like relentless, anything you're trying to do in life, unless you have that crazy streak of going after it until you have it, you're not very likely to succeed. So one last question, and this is the big milestone. ConversionWise got acquired. We talked about a month and a half ago. This happened in the meantime. So tell me about the acquisition. What does that feel like? It's a huge milestone, like the biggest day of the agency, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Really exciting. I think most exciting for us is the fact that nothing changes. And I know that might sound weird, but often people, get acquired and they exit. Me and Andy picked the right opportunity. So we have joined a group. They're actually called Super Group, funny enough, who is a bunch of amazing, talented young entrepreneurs and marketers who are, through M&A and through their networks, trying to grow the next Brain Labs, right? The next big D2C marketing tycoon. And we love to kind of go on that journey with them. As far as how did it feel, I'll be honest, nothing really has changed. I've had an exit before, so I've kind of had that kind of feeling before. Andy hasn't, so that's probably a better question for him. And it's just kind of business as usual, really. Yeah, of course, it's great. It's good news. It's brilliant for my little family and stuff. But we're now on the next mission. I think, a lot of people. I'm very much a person who loves routine. I love working. I love what I do. I don't find this as a job. I love the people. I love the whole process of entrepreneurship. And I think, a couple of my mates have said, so what happens next? Are you going to go sit on a beach and retire? And I'm like, I couldn't think of anything worse. Like genuinely, whether I sell a company for £1 billion or £1 million, I just couldn't think of anything worse. I love the hustle. I love the game of business it's just business as normal. And in fact, we're even more incentivized and more driven to put ConversionWise on the map even further. And, I'll be honest, we want ConversionWise to be the biggest and best CRO agency in the world. And that's our mission.
Those are lofty goals, but just stay relentless, right? It sounds to me like it's a good time to be Oliver Kenyon, like based on everything you just told me with the acquisition and with where you are with your business. But that mindset of even if you sold it for £1 billion, you still want to be doing this. That's what you wish to everyone, basically, to be in that stage of their life, to find that thing for them. It could be work, it could be a hobby, whatever it is, but find something that you would do even if money was not an issue at all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Oliver,
I'm very blessed.
This was a great interview. I want to thank you and congratulate again for everything you've done this year. Your LinkedIn content, every day, I'm serious. Just follow Oliver. Every day you'll get some posts in your feed and you'll learn from them. So thank you for being a guest. Thank you for being a no hack. And to everyone who was listening to this episode, I know you learned a lot about conversion design, about landing page design, about running a CRO agency, growing a CRO agency. Please consider rating, sharing, reviewing the episode, and I will talk to you next week.